I think it's about time somebody objectively ranks the worst and the best bosses in the Soulsborne series. And yeah, that's right, I said objectively. So you can feel free to disagree, but you're gonna be wrong. Make sure to subscribe and comment. Now, the worst fight in Demon Souls, I have to say it's Dragon God. I am really not the biggest fan of Demon Souls, mainly because of all the gimmick fights, and Dragon God is just the most insufferable gimmick fight. If you're lucky enough to not have fought him, it's just a boring Resident Evil stealth mission, and this boss shares a lot in common with the other bad bosses in the series. The boss arena is beautiful, the boss looks cool, but they just completely flopped with designing the mechanics of the boss. And I would say the best boss in Demon Souls is probably Flame Lurker. Flame Lurker is like one of 3 bosses in Demon Souls that isn't just a complete pile of horseshit, no offense. Flame Lurker is just the Thing and Human Torch into one, and he's just overall a really entertaining fight. And Flame Lurker is right before Dragon God. It's like reverse One Piece. You get a really good boss fight with Flame Lurker, but after you beat Flame Lurker, you have to move on to a long, terrible, awful boss fight with Dragon God. It's like, imagine if the first 100 chapters of One Piece were good and the last 900 were bad. The worst boss in Dark Souls is a really tricky one. It's just been bugging me for so long because I just can't pick what boss is the worst. If only Dark Souls had a terrible gimmick boss. Hey, From Software, fuck you for making Bed of Chaos a Lord Soul. Now, the best boss in Dark Souls is Artorias, and I think that's agreed upon by every Souls fan ever. Artorias created the blueprint of humanoid that wields sword and is super fast. And it's fun fighting something that's so similar to your character, but they can leap 20 feet in the air and have attacks that are like 50 times flashier. I don't know, people gave Dark Souls 2 a bunch of shit for having too many humanoid enemies. I'll never understand that because humanoid boss fights are by far the best. Artorias is the founding father of these boss fights, and he still holds up to this day. So yeah, he's the best boss in Dark Souls. Now for Dark Souls 2, it's pretty tricky to pick the worst boss. I'm the #1 defender of Dark Souls 2, and I will wholeheartedly admit that the bosses in this game, not good. There's the one rat boss with the mohawk. That boss sucks. The other rat boss is also terrible. The covetous demon. I don't want to be too mean to the covetous demon, but it is a little bit of a disgrace to the Souls series. But I think my pick is going to be the Ancient Dragon. I cannot put into words how bad the Ancient Dragon is. This boss is so bad, it's like a mystery to me on how it even got into the game. The Ancient Dragon legit has 2 attacks. Stomp with its feet, or fly in the air and shoot fire. And the fire attack is bullshit because it one-shots you and it's basically impossible to dodge. And it just baffles me because they obviously put so much effort into the area and then they top it all off with a spit in the face. Fuck you, Ancient Dragon. The best boss in Dark Souls 2? Sir Alone. Sir Alone is just perfection. I like Sir Alone so much that I made him my Overwatch name. The boss is just one of the best in the series. The boss fight is just a constant back and forth with some big ass samurai, and you're fighting him on some marble floor with like the sun coming in through the windows. It's all just chef's kiss. Now the worst boss in Dark Souls 3, I'm probably gonna catch some shit for this. To me, it's Osiris. Osiris is just some fussy, little whiny little bitch of a boss that's just like moaning the whole time. Oh, I'm just getting myself mad talking about Osiris. Like, none of the attacks make sense. He runs a train through you a couple times. Osiris just fucking sucks. And what's even worse about it, you have to fight him to get to Champion Gundyr. It's a lot like One Piece. Does that make sense, One Piece fans?
Actually, if you get to chapter 844, where Luffy fights Pirate Big Dick, that's the best part.
Now the best boss in Dark Souls 3, come on, you know what it is. It's Gale. Now I think Gale might be my favorite boss, like in all of gaming, and I genuinely think that you should go play Dark Souls 3 just for Gale. Hell, everybody alive should go fight Gale. It should be a law in every country to fight Gale at least once. Gale is like the modern Mona Lisa. It should be put in museums. Gale is a monument. Now the worst boss in Bloodborne is also pretty tricky. For how many glazers Bloodborne has, the bosses should be a lot better. Bloodborne bosses are so bad that they are actually going to break the rules of this video. I'm not just going to pick one, I'm going to pick 3. I'm going to call this the trio of buns, and this is going to consist of Rom, the One Reborn, and Mikolash. All 3 of these bosses blow dick and balls. Bergenworth is my favorite area in Bloodborne. It's like where the story starts, and they put Rom there. Rom is just this big ass obese spider blob thing, and for some reason Rom can spawn in an infinite amount of spiders that just kill you in 2 hits. The One Reborn is beyond lazy. I don't know why it looks like something ChatGPT would make. And the One Reborn has this attack where it like shits itself, and if you get anywhere near it, you just take a bunch of damage. On top of that, you have to do tedious work and go kill the archers on the roof. And then there's Mikolash. Mikolash literally just runs from you the whole time, and once you get him to the second phase, all of a sudden he has the most broken power in the whole game, where he can one-shot you, and the hitbox makes no sense, so it doesn't matter which way you dodge, you're gonna die, and it's not on a cooldown, so you can just spam it. And on top of all that, all 3 of these bosses are in order. You go from Rom to the One Reborn to Mikolash. And you know what's before Rom? The Hunters in the Woods. That boss sucks too. And you know what's after Mikolash? The Wet Nurse. And that boss doesn't suck, but it's also not good. Sorry, just excuse my little rant about the Bloodborne bosses. The best boss in Bloodborne, this is also tricky because of how good the Bloodborne bosses are. But personally, I gotta say Lady Maria. Lady Maria is kind of similar to Gale, just a badass humanoid with like 3 different stages. She wields the Rikuyo, which has like the best moveset in the game. And then when you add her being able to fly up in the air and add Blood Flame to her Rikuyo, No, I'm gonna share something a little embarrassing about myself. But Lady Maria was so good that when I learned how to start editing, I made edits of her. I know it's a little embarrassing, but I gotta prove to you how good that boss is. Oh, here's also a little hot take. I would say the final boss Eliza P is better than Lady Maria. The worst boss in Sekiro is the folding screen monkeys. The monkeys are nowhere near as bad as any of the other bosses on this list. For how stable and consistent the bosses are in Sekiro, I think I just have to go with this boss. This fight overstays its welcome to the max. It's way too long, and it's not a boss you can skip because there's something super important that you get after you beat it. It's just a tedious roadblock. This boss is like a speedrunner's worst nightmare. The best boss in Sekiro is Sword Saint Ishin. Ishin is a fantastic boss. Ishin is also the hardest boss in one of the hardest games ever. The dopamine that you feel after beating Ishin is like no other. It's probably equal to the feeling of a piano player learning how to perfectly play Rush E. It's actually probably more impressive to beat Sword Saint Ishin, so that's a bad comparison. This boss is a 4-stage spectacle. You put BTA to Genichiro, and since Genichiro is a pussy, he doesn't die. He summons his dad in his prime, and then Ishin uses a sword, a spear, a gun, and lightning. It's the perfect mix between badass, challenge, and fun. The worst boss in Elden Ring is probably Fire Giant. I really don't like this boss because it's just once again another obstacle that's between you and a very important plot device. His attacks are really janky, especially when he rolls around. He spams these annoying ass fire attacks, and then on top of all that, they give him the most health in the whole game. I will never look forward to fighting Fire Giant. But you know who I do look forward to? The best boss in Elden Ring, Mesmer. Mesmer the Impaler. My oh my. When I saw Mesmer in the trailer, I was like, fuck, he's badass. And then when I eventually reached him, sitting in his throne, alone, waiting for somebody to fight, I was even more stoked. And then once I eventually got him to the second phase, here, I'm just gonna show my reaction to when he transformed.
Of the abyssal serpent, shorn of life. This creature
What the fuck?
What, bro? I was waiting. Don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. Is it in the Mesmer fight?
If you like this video, make sure to subscribe. Also, if you disagree with anything, make sure to let me know. Thank you for watching.